Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Friday evening. Excuse me. That is something I've been looking forward to all week. I haven't had a drink since Easter, since my pal was here. But dear me, I got through about. I got through. The pair of us got through a lot of beer over the Easter weekend. So I've been kind of resting me liver ever since then. Good evening, each and every one of you. Let's have a look and see who was first in, who gets the award for being teacher's pet this week. It was Danny Hancock, and you've got something to say there, Danny. Let's have a look. Evening, chaps. For those who like to speculate on what John Robson, guitarist, will have for dinner, I've been in touch with Vegas, and here are the odds: curry 7 to 8 on, pizza 2 to 5, kebabs, whatever it is. Anyway, I see you're all taking bets on what this evening's meal will go to be. Well, if anybody has put their money on salad, then you should. You could probably collect on an each way bet for that, because I am having a salad this evening, attached to a big, fat, greasy, sweaty doner kebab with loads of garlic sauce all over it. That is what I shall be dining on this evening, and washed down with plenty more of this stuff, the old Holston pills, left over from last weekend. As I say, that's just one of the stragglers from Easter, and I'll be no doubt continuing on something else when the Holston has run out. Who else have we got in? Let's have a look and see. Danny Hancock, Luke's in, Phil B, Johnny Random, Michael Palmer, and Vincent Brennan, Phil, and James Hunt. Scott Guitars, how are you, Dan? Johnny H, Cal B, Edwin Toonan, nice to see you in, Edwin, and David Evans, and Angel Martinez, Phil, Cal B, I said you already, The Time Prophet, and who else we got? Ian Rouse, and Peter Collins, Jimmy James, and you've been quite talkative while you've been waiting for me, haven't you? You lot, Grandpa Joe, nice to see you there, mate. Dr. Gomez and Robert Fordin and Deco Dude, and who else we got? Ian Clark, 60s Man, the Essex Cat, Rexomatic, nice to see you in, Rex. Who else have we got? Dash Schaff, Brad Matthews, Paul Trainer, Malcolm Spillett, Dave Lewis, Lawrence Hastings, Bass at Night, Geronimo's in, Stephen Thomas, John Channing, Dave Pegg, Dave Stevens. I'm going to butcher this one. Pekka Olvinen. I do apologise if my pronunciation is somewhat lacking there. Robster Boy is in. Who else have we got? Steve Lamb, Rob Bald, Graham Campbell, Michael Purcell, Paul Trainer, etc., etc. All the usual crew, basically, all the usual suspects. I did, as I was scrolling past there, notice that someone was asking me who did the caricature of me. It's a very talented chap called Axe Caricaturist, and the link to his, I think it's his Facebook, is in the description of all of my videos. If you just scroll down, he's a very talented bloke. I didn't ask him to do that caricature. He just kind of sent it to me, unsolicited, and I was so touched by that. It's a good likeness as well, isn't it? If anything, it's a bit flattering, it has to be said. Ian Clark's saying, congratulations on your sobriety, but Easter was only 4 days ago, not the usual 5 from Sundays. Yeah, the thing is, though, here's the thing. I spend from 7:30ish on a morning till 8 p.m. on an evening, most days, in this room. And for whatever reason, it is the hottest room in the house. The rest of the house can be like a fridge, and this little room here can be like a sauna. and I'm talking all day on Zoom calls and guitar lessons, or I'm kind of sat in front of a webcam going, hello, chaps, welcome once again, all that sort of stuff. So I usually have a mouth like a saw pit by the time I finish at 8 o'clock on an evening. And, just the lure of a cold beer is often too tempting to resist. So I try and be good, and often I don't manage it. So this week, I've kind of done all of those hours, and I've just gone downstairs to a glass of Ribena or mango squash or something. What that kind of stuff you add water to that comes from the supermarket, the stuff I mean. Rather than beer. So I've been looking forward to a cold beer all week, and dear me, it don't half taste good. Excuse me. Anyway, around about this time of the evening, it's customary that I usually let you know what's going to be up on the channel this week. And I've noticed, because I'm doing videos like a couple of weeks in advance at the moment, so by the time I get to announcing what's happening on a Friday, in this slot here, I've often forgotten what's coming up in the next few days. So I've written it down. On Sunday, because there's no Saturday video this week, I only do those occasionally. On Sunday, we've got the full-on review of this wonderful thing here, the Yamaha Revstar. So if you're interested on what that guitar sounds like plugged into a mix with other instruments around it, then check out Sunday's video. Then on Monday, well, you know what happens on a Monday, we do a solo analysis, and that's what we've got this coming Monday, funnily enough. I've done a couple of these in the past where I've taken a sax solo and translated it to guitar, and I really enjoy doing that. I'm going to start doing some more of those. I think I did the Will You solo from Hazel O'Connor's, that Hazel O'Connor song, and I also did the Clarence Clements solo not that long ago from Born to Run. Well, here's a bit of a cryptic one for you. Monday's solo analysis is a sax solo from 1978, and if, like me, you were young and naive in 1978, you may have actually believed that this solo was played on a candelabra. There you go, because you might have seen it on Top of the Pops. Now, some people will immediately know which solo I'm talking about. Some people will be going, what? All will be revealed in due course. Then on Tuesday, it's a top 5 Tuesday as usual. Actually, I'm lying. It's not a top 5 Tuesday. It's a top 10, because this category, I simply could not narrow it down to the final 5. So I thought, screw it, I'll do a top 10. And I was sure I'd done this video before, but I don't think I have. I couldn't find any evidence of it. Basically, it's my favourite guitar solos. I've done my favourite blues solos. I've done my favourite performances by this player or that player. I've done my favourite blues albums. I've done my favourite albums in a particular genre, whatever. But I don't think I've ever done my, kind of favourite guitar solos of all time. And if I have, it was probably a while ago. And as I always say in these videos, yeah, these are my favourites today, but ask me again tomorrow and it could all have changed. So, I'll use that as my get out of jail free card in case I am duplicating content from a while ago. So that's Tuesday's video, my favourite solos. Wednesday is, as is the custom at the moment, a rhythm guitar lesson. Well, we're basically combining that sort of 8th note and 16th note strumming to create something that, I always call it fanfare strumming. And because it sounds like a fanfare when you do it. It's, if you're familiar with songs like what's it called, That's Entertainment by The Jam, or Moonlight Shadow by Mike Oldfield, there's another one, and countless other songs that have that da-da-da kind of rhythm guitar part going on. That's what we're looking at on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, we're back to the Revstar again. when I initially went looking for this guitar, it was because I was on a bit of an SG kick, and it was one of the guitars that was kind of in that ballpark of something that's a bit SG like that I considered buying, but it wasn't in stock anywhere. And then, so I bought the Epiphone SG, and then I ended up buying that. So I've got two kind of SG like guitars here. The temptation to do a comparison, a bit like the Epiphone versus the Gibson SG I did last week, or this week, yesterday that was, wasn't it? So Thursday's video is the Yamaha Revstar RSE 20 up against the Epiphone standard 60s SG. And here's the thing, only one of them can kind of stay here at Robson Towers, because I can't really justify having two so similar guitars. So on Thursday you will see me making up my mind, and I genuinely did make up my mind as I was making the video, which one is going to be staying and which one is going to be going. So there you go. That's the videos for this week, and well, till Thursday anyway. And then after Thursday, it's Friday, and you know what happens on a Friday, don't you? So what you all been talking about? What you been? John Do the sax from Baker Street. I've thought about that before, mate, but I've done the guitar solo from Baker Street. But there's not really that much to that sax thing on Baker Street. It's like da 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 da, and that's it. You're basically done. I see somebody has got the sax solo. Yep. It's Rat Trap. Yes, by the Boomtown Rats. I'm scrolling up now to see who got it there first. Yes, who's that saying? Jungle Land. Yeah, that's a great suggestion, mate. Watch Michael Purcell. Watch this space. I will definitely. I've been thinking about doing a Springsteen guitar solo as well, because I've not really done anything. And he was, you watch documentaries about Bruce, and he is a bit of a Marmite character. People either love him or loathe him, and I kind of blow hot and cold. There's certain periods of his career where it's just a big yawn fest, to be honest. But when he's got the bit between his teeth, much like Clapton, I think he's absolutely on point, excellent. So I shall be looking at doing a Springsteen guitar solo, but the Clarence Clements solo from Jungle Land is a great one. Fantastic suggestion there. So Chris Reddington, thanks for that B7 Franken chord. In what sense is B7 a Frankenstein-like chord? Excuse me, I need more lubrication. This is tasting rather good tonight, so it could get messy. Thankfully, none of you will be around to see it. Please feature Lindsay Buckingham someday. Yeah, now there's a unique player. I should really do that. I remember the first time I really kind of took any notice of. Well, not took any notice of Fleetwood Mac, because I was always a big fan of the the Peter Green era of Fleetwood Mac, but then it became a bit of a bit dull, to be honest with you. And I've got a guilty secret. One of my students who cropped up in the comments to one of my videos this week told me about his guilty secret is that he doesn't like Pink Floyd, but has pretended to all of these years and nodded and go, oh yeah, Floyd, fantastic. Well, I'm much like that with the Rumours album. I just don't get it. I really don't. So that kind of put me off that kind of lineup of Fleetwood Mac. But then I heard a live album in the late 80s at some point. I can't even remember what it was called, because it was on a cassette. that had been obviously recorded off it's probably called Fleetwood Mac Live, knowing Milo, but I heard this Fleetwood Mac Live album, and Lindsey Buckingham was absolutely kind of ripping it up in a way that I'd never really kind of associated with his playing. So yes, maybe I should look at a bit of Lindsey Buckingham. Yes, yes, I'm wearing the Flake T-shirt there, Dave. Yes, I'm glad you noticed, mate. Yeah, Pablo, I'm with you on that. Rumours is bland. It's a tapioca album. It's just one of those things that, well, yeah, I can't find any reason to dislike it, but there's nothing on that album that makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, apart from that few seconds of that bass riff from The Chain, which for years in the UK was used as the, maybe it still is, as the theme tune to the Formula One coverage on the TV. Oh, I see we're into bands that we want to get off our chest that we don't like. I did a video about that a little while ago called Five Bands I Don't Get, Change My Mind, and oh dear me, that upset a few people. And so if you're going to start coming out with those kind of confessions in a public forum like that, you have to have a bit of a thick skin. Thankfully, I have. So, yeah, I never really got rumours, and I mean, I was the girl I was going out with in 1988. She was massively into that that album that they had back then. Was it Tango in the Night? And oh dear me, if I never ever hear that album again, it'll be too soon. I mean, just the lyrics on some of those songs, Everywhere is what was the big hit off that album, wasn't it? Come on now, baby, you better make a start. Come on now, baby, before you break my heart. I mean, talk about lazy rhyming cliches and stuff. That's the sort of thing that, sixth form poetry doesn't even come into it, does it? Anyway, enough of this bitching. Let's see what's been going on in the chat while I've been ranting. So Danny Hancock is saying, there's my serious question for this week, and it's open to all of you chaps. How to overcome a lack of motivation? I feel like I'm not making any real progress. Okay, yeah, we've all experienced that. There are a number of ways to motivate yourself, and one of them is get yourself a new toy, get yourself a new bit of kit, either a guitar or an effects pedal, something that just gives you a sound that you've not had before, and just start playing with it, and you might just stumble across something that is, that you hadn't thought you could do. So the new toy, the novelty syndrome, gets you playing a bit more usually, and that's when you can kind of stumble across something. Another thing you can do is, and I did a video about this a while ago, is keep a diary of your practice. If there is some scale exercise, and I know scale, as I say to all my students, I always say, I'm not going to sit here and lie to your face and say that scale exercises are fun or, entertaining or interesting things to do, but they do get your technique up to scratch. One that I do, let me just pick up which guitar is plugged in at the moment. I'll pick up the Rev Star because it's handy. One that I do a lot, if you take a basic pentatonic shape, there we go, we've got sound and vision. Take a basic pentatonic shape like this one that I'm sure we all know, and go 3 notes up the scale from the first note, then go 3 notes up the scale from the next note, then 3 notes up the scale from the next note, and so on. So you're just kind of going 3 steps up and 1 back all the time. Like that. Do that to a metronome, okay? And make a note of what speed you can play it cleanly at. Like that, okay? And then just try increasing the speed. And each day, just try and do it a couple of beats per minute faster. And if you're keeping a record of that, then you will see a tangible kind of quantifiable improvement in your progress, and you will think, yes, I am getting better. The thing you have to realize when you're practicing is that the progress happens at the speed that your hair grows. Okay, so you're not going to go. There are none of these kind of magic moments usually when boom, suddenly you make quantum leaps in progress. It just happens so gradually that you think it's not happening at all, but it is. And if you can keep a log of that and then look back and say, oh dear me, a month ago or 6 weeks ago, yeah, I was struggling to hit that speed, and now I'm just that little bit ahead. That provides motivation. The thing that saps your motivation is feeling like you're not getting anywhere. So if you can get rid of that kind of negativity, then you will progress. So there you go. That's my 2 pence. I'm sure there's been more going on in the chat. Peter Collins is saying, join a band. That's great advice, mate. That is great advice. My first proper band I was in really brought me on and made me kind of learn stuff that I would never have tried doing. I'd been in bands before, but it was like, okay, let's do this Status Quo song. Let's do that Status Quo song. I was a massive Status Quo fan, still am. Where it's all kind of 3 chords and a pentatonic scale. And then suddenly I'm in a band where I'm having to play soul, and I'm having to play, kind of major 7th chords, and I'm having to play, different sort of stuff that I'd never, ever encountered before. I was always kind of open to those ideas and thinking, yeah, I want to be able to. I mean, I remember we did an old Neil Sedaka song, Laughter in the Rain, if anybody remembers that. And there's some cool chord changes in that, it would be a stretch to say I was a Neil Sedaka fan, but, he knew how to write a cool chord sequence. And, I learned that's when I started kind of getting into understanding about chords and theory and, harmonic relationships and stuff, and that would have never happened to me if I hadn't lit that fuse and joined this this kind of cabaret band that I joined back in the late 80s at some point. Anyway, did you learn to play lead guitar by copying licks or passages from famous songs? Eventually, I did get into that, but I've got to shout out here. I mean, my first, I think we're still plugged in, experience of lead guitar was stumbling across an Adam and the Ants riff, of all things, That from an Adam and the Ants song called Goody Two Shoes. And then realising that these notes there were actually the same notes that we use in that, and so on. And so that sort of taught me a little bit about, maybe these notes have some kind of special relationship. And then there was a TV show on in the UK called Rock School in the early 80s. which was basically a rock band in a TV studio who, were showing you how to play different genres of music. So they'd do a pop week, a country week, a metal week, a blues week. And on that show, they showed me this pattern, and then the kind of penny dropped that was that kind of Adam the Ant's AC/DC pattern that I'd kind of learned just by picking it up sort of by ear. So that's when and they said, if you kind of know this shape, then you can improvise. So that's where I went with it initially, just kind of making stuff up out of that shape, and eventually, start of, again, when I got into a band, having to learn other people's solos and riffs and stuff, it was like, okay, well, that fits into that shape, and that fits into that shape as well. So that's how, that's how I kind of got into playing lead guitar, really. Edwin saying, if this becomes a Neil Sedaka channel, I'm out. Yeah, I think I would be as well, mate. Evening, Craig. How are you, mate? Dave Pegg saying, roller bridges, your thoughts, thinking of getting one. Roller bridge as in like a Tune-o-matic style. I mean, the only thing that I can say about a roller bridge is that, because there are like, kind of roller saddles that you can get for Strat style things, it will reduce the friction. And, if the bridges are sticking, but I don't see a lot of point in a roller bridge unless you are using a trem, because unless the strings are going to be moving and therefore encountering friction as they move when you're using the trem, then, it's just one thing that can help reduce the friction. But, if you're not using a trem, then meh, really. Where are we? Yes, there was a black bass player on Rock School. I think Henry Thomas, I think he was called. Or was that the drummer? I can't remember. But yeah, I still remember she was a hell of a guitar player on that show. Deirdre Cartwright, I seem to remember. Deirdre Cartwright, yes, it was Jeff. Back in the day when we knew the minor pentatonic but didn't know it was called that. Yes, that was me for quite a few years, mate. Anyway, excuse me, I'm talking a lot and not drinking very much. Let's redress the balance. Oh, cold beer, good. Deco dude saying, if I'm trying to do any writing, I can't listen to anything. You see, I'm the other way around. Stick with me on this one because it's relevant. A few years ago, about 10, 15 years ago, actually, I decided that I wanted a hobby that wasn't music related. So of all things, I took up watercolor painting. Yeah, me. I read this book on watercolor painting, and it was basically saying that the great artists would, like Monet, for example, right? He would paint a scene from memory. He would paint a scene from, just kind of a glimpse of something that he'd seen and then remember it. And then paint his interpretation of that scene, which was quite often wildly different from the actual reality of it. And that's the way I write a lot. There was a tune I did years ago called My Shout on an album I did called Elbow Grease back in about the early 2000s. And the reason I did that tune was because, well, 10 years before that, Paul Reed Smith did a tune. Yes, he had a band, Paul Reed Smith and the Dragons, and they did a tune called Riding the Hip. And I had it on a Guitar Magazine CD that I lost. And I always really liked that tune. So I kind of tried to rewrite it from memory. And I suspect it was way different from the from the actuality of it. And that became my tune called My Shout. So that's and I found that's worked for me ever since. Just try and think, just a piece of music that I haven't listened to in a while, but I want to do something that's quite similar to it. Just rewrite it from memory, and you'll probably get it wrong, and you'll probably get something completely different. But it provides you with that spark of an idea. That's usually where I write. I always kind of think, yeah, like when I'm doing the the kind of demonstration pieces for the YouTube videos, when I'm kind of demonstrating like the Rev Star there, I always kind of have something in my mind that I'm thinking, yeah, let's do something like that. And then when I did the SG, it was quite obviously a bit of an Angus rip-off, I'll admit that. But just rewrite something from memory. Stuart, man, yes. Saying Joni Mitchell was a great writer, but I couldn't warm to her as a performer. I loved Nazareth's version of This Flight Tonight. Indeed, mate. Yeah. It took me a long time before I realised that wasn't an original Nazareth song. I think I first heard that on one of those, do you remember those K-Tel compilation albums that came out in the 70s? I had one of those. And ironically, I'd only got it because it had Tiger Feet by Mud on it. I just wanted a record that had Tiger Feet on it, and that was one of the other songs that was on it. And great song. Another cover of Joni's that I liked was Counting Crows. Was it Big Yellow Taxi? They did a fantastic version of that. Whatever happened to Counting Crows? They were quite the thing in the 90s, weren't they? Mr. Jones, that was a big hit for them. And I thought they were going to be like, kind of up there with R.E.M. as being that kind of level of band, but they just sort of like fizzled, really, didn't they? Let's have a look. See what you've all been talking about. Like Dan saying, I can only imagine you painting the town red. Indeed. If it's your shout, I'll have a pint. Thanks. Dear me. I have both series of Rock School on old VHS, now converted to DVD. The second series not so good. Yeah, I agree with you on that. It's that first series, if you get the heavy metal episode, there's a very, very fresh faced and skinny looking Gary Moore on there, telling you all about his pedal board, which was great. Graham. Funny you should mention the Black Crows. I've just been watching a video where they've been cropping up quite a bit. As many of you may know, if you've seen any of my favourite YouTube channel videos, I'm a huge fan of a channel called Sea of Tranquility. Go and check them out. They're really good. It's just a bunch of guys talking about music, basically, and doing it in an engaging and entertaining manner. And the episode I was watching, well, I wasn't watching, I had it on in the background while I was editing a video. They were talking about the Black Crows and, how, that they were one of the great riff bands of the 90s. And yeah, I'd go along with that. Counting Crows are still very much alive. Excellent. That's good to know. Yeah, I know what you're saying there. The Bass at Night, the second series of Rock School, the synths came out, and that's when it became just, endless discussions about MIDI, I seem to remember, which was the big new kind of exciting thing in the 80s, wasn't it? So what else have you been talking about? You know what, Steve? That is a brilliant suggestion. We were talking about getting motivated earlier, and when I first started teaching guitar, dear me, 31 years ago, I've been doing this job as a stopgap between real jobs for 31 years now. I think it's probably, I'm probably a lifer. But yeah, students bringing songs into lessons and saying, can I learn this? Can I learn that? You know, and you listen to music that you would never, ever have, you know, pulled the trigger on and bought the album, which nowadays you can just stream it, can't you? But, you know, I discovered loads of new music that way and learned loads of new things. There's an episode of The Simpsons where, you know, they're strapped for cash. And Marge says, I know, I'll start doing piano lessons. And Homer says, but you can't play the piano. And she says, all you got to be is one lesson ahead of the student and you'll be fine. And, you know, and that, for a long time, that's how that was my approach to teaching people to play certain genres of music on the guitar. And then, of course, you do it for a while and you sort of, you find your feet in it and you get a little bit more confident with it. Saw Nazareth and Thin Lizzy double bill. That would have been a great night. Yes, indeed. Let's see what else you've been talking about. 31 years ago, I was 40. Yeah, 31 years ago, I was 24. So, yes. What are you saying, Steve? I recall a Rick Beato video where he discusses how he came to know many songs. It was as a teacher. Yeah, you do that, and you know you start to learn what I think. What's he called? Oh dear me, guitar player in Booker and the MGs. Can't think of his name for the moment. Steve Cropper. That's it. You know, you start to learn what he used to call Sears Roebuck chord sequences. You know, they're just available and everybody uses them. And you hear them in song after song after song. I mean, obviously the 12-bar blues is an example of that, but then, you know, then you get like the sort of the 1-6-4-5 G, E minor, C, D. How many songs have used that? And you start to kind of pick up on these things, and in a way, it does make you a more discerning listener as well, because you know you can hear a song that you think, yeah, but that's just the same chord sequence as this song or that song, and you start to kind of, you know, appreciate the more original stuff that's doing something that no one's done or not many people have done. It's not relying on the cliches so much. What you're saying there, don't you hate it when you click on something and the website moves and you click on something you didn't intend to? Yes, I've used that excuse a few times. Anyway, John, the advent of YouTube is great for new players. I learned by listening to vinyl albums back in the end of the 70s. Yeah, I think we all did, mate. Did anybody else have that that particular trick that you could do if you had an old Danset record player, which had a 16 RPM speed on it, where you could put an LP on at the 33 and a third LP, you could put it on at 16 and it would kind of drop the pitch by roughly an octave and, you know, halve the speed. That was a great way. I've learned many a lick by doing that. Even as recently as, like the 90s, you know, I was still kind of relying on that because, you know, what else did you have back then? You know, we didn't have, you know, kind of the ability to load something into Audacity and kind of slow it down or anything. Yeah, done it many a time. Anyway, chaps, talk amongst yourselves while I pour myself beer number 3. I got to tell you, this one is, I'm probably going to be a little bit bleary-eyed in the morning. So I will apologise in advance to my Saturday morning students if I'm a little bit bleary-eyed on the lessons tomorrow, but I'm enjoying myself tonight. What the heck? Here we go. Everybody get ready to type the word flake. I'll do my best for you. Although the Holston isn't very good at producing The flakehead. Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad, is it? There you go. I mean, we've got a fair flakehead on that. Excuse me. Let's see what else is going on. Phil B saying, as a new learner, it's easy to find tabs, get you going quicker, but there's a lot to be said for trying to learn by ear. Yeah. And there is, I think, a lot to be said for the scarcity of information that we had to put up with back in the late 70s and early 80s. Because if you learned a lick, you hadn't just learned a lick, you'd learned kind of a way into something. What I mean by that is you would... each little nugget of information that you kind of figured out was precious, and you wanted to milk it and get the most out of it. Whereas nowadays you learn a lick and, oh yeah, I can play that now, let's move on to the next one. And you don't tend to explore what it means and how you can reuse it and how you can get the most out of it. It's just like, well, yeah, it's because there's so much information around these days. It can lead. I'm not saying it does, but it can lead to a lack of inquisitiveness and curiosity, and that lack of curiosity is what will kind of hamper you from learning, really, I think. Where are we? George Wall saying Holston Pill's one of my favourites. Some bloke on YouTube said there was a mistake to set out to purposely write a tune in a specific mode. What do you think? I would have thought that it would have been very educational. I think that, well, sometimes you can pick up your instrument and just let it flow and let come out what comes out. I'm a big fan of, well, to get techie for a moment, modal interchange. Like, so if I'm playing something in the key of A minor, let's say, I like to throw in a couple of chords, maybe from the key of A major or the key of D major or something like that. So I understand what I'm doing there. In terms of, sticking to a particular mode, I mean, you can do that. It's because, I know what the modes sound like, and I'm thinking, okay, so I don't think Mixolydian or Dorian. I just think, I want something that has this kind of vibe or that kind of vibe. And it's like, I know what kind of flavor I want, so I know which ingredients will give me that flavor. That's sort of the way you get to it. You get to the point where you're not thinking about the technicalities of it. You just know the sound that you want, and it will take you there. As for, kind of deliberately avoiding writing in a particular mode, well, how else are you going to, learn what they sound like? I mean, it depends what you're trying to do, really. If you're trying to just write something that's creative and think, okay, yeah, I'm not going to have any restrictions, and think, well, I can't use that chord because it's not in the mode that I'm set myself doing. Well, maybe that's not a good idea. But if you're wanting to write something as a think, well, okay, these are the limitations that I'm going to set on myself, and I'm going to explore what the possibilities are within those limitations, then that's equally valid. So it depends which approach you're taking, really, whether you're trying to teach yourself how to use the tools or whether you've actually got, the tools under your belt, basically, if that makes any sort of sense. Stuart Young is saying, I think skiffle and punk were driving some new musicians in the day. No one expected young people starting skiffle and punk bands to be in any way accomplished. What you've hit on there, mate, is something very profound, really. That there's always been a backlash against complexity in music. And this goes way back to, you had all of the Baroque composers, your kind of Vivaldis and your Bachs and your Paganinis that were doing all the kind of filigree, kind of twiddly sort of stuff. Lots of different melodies, all intertwining in and out of each other in a complex way that, and then we'll take this melody and we'll invert it, and we'll take that melody and we'll slow it down, and we'll kind of, and all kind of weaving in and out of each other. And then as a response to that, the classical school of music emerged, where it was just a melody with chords kind of sitting underneath it to keep that one melody as the noticeable thing, and we'll keep it simple. And that in its way was again a rebellion against the complexity of of the Baroque period. Then you had Miles Davis, Birth of the Cool, with all of the kind of twiddly, kind of filigree bebop sort of stuff that Charlie Parker and so on, that kind of got a bit out of hand, and Miles Davis kind of pretty much single-handedly invented cool jazz, and again simplified it and made it accessible and made it kind of just again a reaction against the complexity. And then, as you say, skiffle was the reaction against primarily kind of twiddly Dixieland jazz, and then punk was the reaction against progressive rock, and then grunge was the reaction against the kind of excesses of 80s hair metal. So that sort of cycle has always happened throughout music if you look for it. It's just a good point you brought up there, mate. It took me 10 years to realise that the guitars on Live and Dangerous are tuned down a half step. You try playing Cowboy Song in the key of A flat. The first time I learned to play along with Live and Dangerous, I had the good fortune of playing it on a cassette recorder where the motor was running a little bit fast, and it brought it back up into the right key, up into kind of standard tuning again. So it was after that I realised that, well, I think when I got it on CD, even probably as late as that I realised, dear me, this doesn't sound right when I'm playing along with it. Why is that? Where are we? Let's see what you've been talking about. Scrolling up a little bit. Yeah, Vincent, there. Also important to know when not to play. The space between the notes and chords matters. I've just done a video about that, actually, which will be going up in a couple of weeks' time. Part of the rhythm guitar series about muting and damping. What do you teach kids these days? It's more difficult given the modern radio popular output. It doesn't seem to be very instrument orientated. Great question, mate. Here's the thing. Most of the kids that I teach these days, and to be honest, since the whole kind of lockdown and, kind of COVID and everything, my business has changed. It's pivoted. It used to be about 2/3 people coming here for lessons and 1/3 Zoom or Skype. It's now the other way around. And consequently, most of the people I'm teaching nowadays are, adults via the webcam I'm talking on now. But I still do have a few people coming to the house, and a few of those are kids. And they fall into basically two categories. There's the kids who are just absolutely in love with their dad's record collection, So I've got one young chap coming to me at the moment, Alfie, if you're watching, hello, who is, he's massively into, Noel Gallagher, Oasis, all of that sort of stuff is his dad's record collection, basically. So, that's the sort of stuff I'm going through with him. And then there's the other ones, like there's another young chap who I won't name, who's coming to me for lessons, and a conversation I often have with my students is, so what music do you like then? And this conversation, and this is by no means unusual. The answer was, I don't know. Well, what do you listen to? Well, nothing. Well, you must listen to some kind of music. Well, just when it's on the radio. Well, yeah, so what artists or bands do you like? I don't know. And you think, this isn't giving me much to work with here, son. And it eventually gets to the point where, well, I don't really listen to music. And that's the answer I've had quite a lot from young children. Well, not young children, but say I tend not to teach kids below the age of 10. So at the younger range of the ages that I teach, it's like, well, some of them will just say, well, I don't listen to music. And it always staggers me that it's like, well, what on earth was it that made you want to learn to play a musical instrument? It's like if you have no taste buds, you wouldn't want to become a chef. Do you know what I'm saying? It often surprises me that, and it's I wouldn't say it's a majority of times, but it's enough. It's happened enough over the years that I've kind of thought, okay, we've got another one of these here. And sometimes actually taking up a musical instrument ignites a spark and gets that young boy or girl interested in music, and they'll start listening to stuff, and they've discovered a new kind of joy in life. And other times it just doesn't, and they don't really run with it, and you start getting you always get the kind of the preamble to when somebody's going to wrap in with the lessons, where they'll start cancelling week after week after week, or because of this or because of that, or here's a good reason why I can't come to the lesson this week. And then eventually it's just, I think we're going to knock the lessons on the head. And, so that often happens as well. But it's those kids that, and it usually is kids that you say, well, so what music do you like? And they say, well, I don't listen to music. That one always puzzles me. Has anybody else who's ever taught guitar ever had that happen? Yeah. I had a few kids like that. I always felt like a babysitter for half an hour. I soon got rid of them to give my time to someone appreciated. Oh, I've had that. Yes, I've had that. I've had, the parent drops the child off and, oh, can you look after his little brother as well while I just nip to Morrison's or Tesco or something? Well, no, I'm not a babysitter. What was somebody's talking about? What are you saying there? Time profit? Setting up email on my wife's computer while listening. Well, fair enough, mate. And oh, I see. Yeah, I'm just catching up on the chat. Excuse me. I'm just interested in what you've been saying. Oh, you've not had that? That's a new one. I'll probably tell them to come back when they discovered a favourite band or musician. Yep. You see, I always treat it as a little bit of a challenge. Can I get them into music, and can I be the person that made them really appreciate that long string bending Parisian walkways, or some intricate finger picking thing or whatever. So I often just treat it as a challenge, rise to the challenge. And hey, there have been times when I've had to think, what, their money's as good as anybody else's, when times have been a bit thin. Cal B is saying, what do you do if they start singing Baby Shark? Now, here's the thing. I consider myself lucky because I know of the phenomenon of Baby Shark. The wife's mentioned it a couple of times, and I've heard people mentioning it. But much like that crazy frog thing about 20 years ago, I seem to give that one a bit of a body swerve, and the same thing with Baby Shark. So I don't know anything about Baby Shark, and I'm quite proud of that. Graham Campbell, let me just put you up on screen there, mate. I did have a few good ones, usually teenagers, or I managed to turn them into BB King or the Stones, etc. This is it. And it's a piece of advice for those that are, kind of musically aware. One piece of advice that was given to me, and I always kind of try and pass it on, is as well as listening to the bands that you like, listen to the bands that your favourite bands liked. Okay, so if for instance, great example here, right? The Kurt Cobain's guitar riff from Smells Like Teen Spirit. Apparently, when he was writing that, he was trying to write something that sounded a bit like the chorus riff from Boston's More Than a Feeling. Okay? Now, back in the 90s, when every kid that was coming to me for lessons was wanting to learn Smells Like Teen Spirit, it was a great, great kind of way to get kids into playing bar chords, by the way. Every kid, I used to say, okay, so, and I dug the quote out of the magazine where this Kurt Cobain quote was. I was trying to rewrite Boston's More Than a Feeling. So I said, there's a song you should go and listen to, Boston's More Than a Feeling. And I put a little snippet of it on, just the relevant part. And then, they would go away and listen to the Boston album. And not all of them liked it, but some of them did. And they discovered a new genre of music. So that's a new artist, at least, that they could then kind of take with them for the rest of their lives, What's that, Brad? Let's have a look. Nirvana intro Teen Spirit. Intro Teen Spirit with More Than a Feeling at Reading. I didn't know that, mate. I did not know that, but nice to know. Dash Shaft saying, my daughter's introduced me to some good music. I've listened to the same old shite for years and didn't realise. Yeah, I mean, you do get to that point where you've been around the block a few times and you start thinking, is there anything new to listen to? And a band who we all have these bands, don't we, that we've been aware of for years. Everybody else has talked about them, and we've never ever really kind of bothered listening to them. And a band that are on my to-do list that I've never really taken any notice of at all, but everybody says you should listen to them, are Alice in Chains. So that's my, I'm going to start Spotifying them, and, if I like what I hear, I'll buy some stuff. So feel free to chuck any Alice in Chains recommendations my way, because, I do like to kind of discover new stuff from time to time. Let's have a look. Got to say, my kids have converted me to live orchestras playing themes from computer games. Oh, dear me. Yes, I played Space Invaders once in about 1981, and I never went back. Give You Mirrors saying all of it. Craig saying Dirt by Alice in Chains is a great album. Indeed. Anyway, chaps, I'm going to swig off the last of me beer and go and order me kebab, because I'm starting to get a bit peckish. Thanks once again, every one of you, for turning up. 175 watching at the moment, and really, really grateful that 175 of you have turned up once again to watch a fat, bald northern lad talk bollocks for an hour. Incredibly gratifying, and I'll keep on doing it till you're sick of me. But for now, time, gentlemen, please.